Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our work comp webinar, part 2. It's sort of a sales and a retention perspective, which is super important to all of us because obtaining new business and keeping our businesses is super important to our businesses. So let me start by introducing myself. I'm Anae Augustini. I'm CEO of CID Insurance Programs. I'm gonna be your I'm going to do the introduction today and cover a few parts, but mainly our speakers today are going to be Cesar Serrano, who's our senior work comp underwriter, and he handles all of our new business, and Lexi Goldspring is our renewal underwriter.
Hi, everyone.
And then and also in the background, that makes everything run smoothly, is Kaylee Bolger and Jacob Cole, who's new to our team. So welcome them as well. So today's, hang on just a second. Just make sure I'm going. Today's objectives for the webinar, as I mentioned, is really how to obtain competitive, how to effectively obtain competitive new business and get quotes. So we're going to try and connect the dots so you can efficiently go after business that you can quote, submit, quote, and bind easily with Cesar. And then a little better understanding of how to manage work comp, and what are your best practice strategies for maintaining your work comp renewals, which is a big one as well. And so today's webinar is in a we will be speaking as instructors. You will not be able to speak. Your phones will be muted. And so it's really important because we want to hear from you. So as we go through this, if you have any questions at all, please put them in the chat room. Just go into the chat room and type in your question, and we'll answer the questions as we go along, and then we'll give you a chance at the end to go ahead and ask more questions. So let's get started. Cesar, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. So this is how to effectively and efficiently quote business. These are 5 basic pieces of information that are needed to start the process. One is the entity name and contact information. The next would be the FEIN number or the tax ID number. This is how all our markets track all the submissions and how we can tell if a particular market is blocked or submitted by another broker. The detailed description of the operations. We really want to get an idea of what the insured is all about, what the business sells, what type of services they offer, things like that. This ties into the payroll classifications and how are the employees classified. For example, if you have an electrical contractor, let's say, and clerical employees, we want to separate the employees by classification and total estimated annual payrolls for each classification. The other thing would be loss history. If you have prior coverage, we'd like to know where they stand as far as losses go. Do they have good claims history or not? Now, if they don't have prior coverage, that's okay too. We can certainly take a look at new ventures as well. So we can consider a pretty wide variety of classes with no prior coverage also. On the next slide, the new business quotes on large account considerations. These days it seems like a lot of competition. There's a lot of competition on all premium sizes, not just large ones. You could probably say that before in the past, but not anymore. However, there is still big competition on the larger accounts. Say, for example, 50,000 and over. Those are very competitive. Excuse me. You really have to get to know the insured and try to get as much information about them as possible. This makes things a lot easier on the underwriting side. Some of the things you should find out from them are knowing the experience modification factor. For the most part, if you're working on a large account, they're going to be experience rated. Unless it's a newer business that isn't rated yet, then that's probably about the only situation where they wouldn't be. As a side note, in our previous Work Comp webinar, we got into a lot more detail as far as the experience modifications go. So calculations, rating periods, things like that. So we even cover where you can get the information, the experience modification information from the rating bureau, things like that. So I encourage you to go back to our website if you didn't participate in the first Work Comp webinar, and take a look at it. Go through the webinar, and you get a lot of good information through there as well. The next thing would be, do they have an injury and illness prevention plan in place? At this or really any size account, I think they should have some sort of plan in place to prevent injury in the workplace. And honestly, it just makes sense, and it's a good business practice to have one in place, no matter the industry that they're in, from professional office to a restaurant or a contractor. They should probably have one in place at every level. And there's potential of injury. If you can help prevent them, then all the better. It definitely helps when underwriting reviews an account, especially when considering additional credits or discounts for good housekeeping. They have all the safety plan in place and things like that. That really just helps a lot with the underwriting process. Assess the need for loss control program at the same time. Loss control is all about making your workplace safer. Fewer workplace injuries, will obviously result in lower work comp insurance premiums. Plus, you're adding value to the service that you're selling the insured. So there's a lot of resources available online to help put together an effective risk management program. So most of the carriers also have resources online to help with that process as well. And once you get to the larger accounts, there's going to be a lot more help as far as that goes. But nowadays, a lot of it is posted online. You can use that and templates and things like that. The other thing would be the claims management program. Do they have one in place? Is there a dedicated person that the insured has within their company that helps report the claims? Are they reporting on a timely basis? Are they tracking the progress of the claims? Do they have a quick response to follow-up requests? So that's that all matters when it comes to the large accounts and their claims process. So the bottom line with these things is that an insured can positively impact claims and therefore positively impact premium costs. Next slide. So, fast forward now to the quoting process. Now that you've gotten to know the insured, you've gathered all the information, you've completed the applications, you've submitted it to us for a quote, and you have a quote in your hands. What do you do now? So it's time to present the quote to the insured. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I've seen a lot of different types of proposals over the years. The bottom line is I think the insured just really wants to know what the numbers are. So that's probably going to be the key thing when you're presenting the quote, is what you're presenting to them. The components of the quote. In the next slide, there's an example of a quote proposal that you can use. We have one on the website. But really, it is. If you can just show the next slide, Annie. There you go. Thank you. Just breaking out the classification code and the associated annual payroll. So you have classification code, the description of the class, and then you've got your estimated annual payroll, the rates, premium. Include in that is you should include the net rate. And now this quote form doesn't have the net rate showing on here, but typically I would usually put it under where the description of the classification goes, as that nice empty spot there. I usually list the classification codes and then the net rate, and that's based on if there's going to be any discounts or credits apply the experience modification, whether it's a debit or a credit. As far as that goes, that all gets thrown in there, and then you show the net rate, because that's really what the insurer is going to want to know is how much am I really paying for this. So I suggest you, when doing these, probably using your own template. We do have again one online that you can use, download, and kind of make it your own. That's probably going to be the best thing to do when you're proposing coverage to an insured, is that it's your own. You're not handwriting anything in there. So don't use ours, but you can use our template to provide them with their proposal.
Right, and that's a great idea, Caesar. Our template is a Word document. Oops, sorry, and that is designed to for you to put your logo on it, make it your own, customize it, and it's pinked in the areas where you need to fill in the basic information that you need to provide on the quote. So
Definitely.
It's a really great tool, and I encourage you guys to go to the website. It's under resources, templates.
There you go. Thank you, Ine. And also on that template, just make sure you list the payment options on there, especially on the larger accounts. They're going to want to know what kind of options they have, if it's stipulated monthly payments or pay as you go, things like that. But then we go into our product appetite. Now, here's a list of the things that we can write. It's not a full list, obviously. It would be too many things to list down on this page, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what we can write and what we do write frequently. A lot of these things are like artisan contractors, like electricians and plumbers and things like that, that we can do HVAC, automotive, beauty shops. We do a lot of automotive risks, restaurants, nonprofits, big on the property management and homeowners associations, schools, real estate. I can go on as far as that goes, but yeah. So we do have a lot of those applications that apply to those risks on the website as well. So feel free to go through that website and download the applications that you need.
And there's many more that you are not listed here, right, Caesar, that you can write?
Exactly. Yeah, there's tons of stuff we can write. We do stay away from the really heavy end stuff like the roofers and the long haul truckers and home health and things like that. But outside of that, I mean, we really do have a pretty wide appetite with the carriers that we work with. So it gives a pretty good opportunity for the agent to really come to us and if they have something, to use us for that. So it really helps. Next on that is going to be the
Okay.
That's for Lexi.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so renewal quotes, how the process works. So we begin our process of review about 60 days in advance from the effective date of the policy. And this review includes verifying payrolls, addresses, ownership, and consideration of remarketing with another carrier. So we do request the broker to provide an updated Accord 130 on file just so we can verify all that information is accurate. And I do want to cover our auto. The carrier does go through an auto renewal process, which is normally with renewals under about $9,000 to $10,000 in premium in a case-by-case situation. So the insured will be receiving auto renewal terms from the carrier directly. However, we will be sending the broker a renewal proposal with instructions on how to renew the policy term and also information on where to send payment. So the broker should be implementing their own renewal process and then sending a renewal proposal directly to the insured, as these are covered. So I do want to paint a clear picture. Just because the insured receives those renewal terms from the carrier, we will still send the renewal proposal for review to you, and then we expect a formal bind request back from you as well. If you are not able to retain the insured, the carrier will require a signed LPR form to cancel or non-renew their coverage, and you can find this form on our website at CIDinsurance.com.
Question for you, Lexi. Do you go out to do you take a look at other carriers for remarket?
Yes, we try to remarket every account with multiple carriers, so we are on top of it to find the most competitive market for the insured.
Okay, good idea. Yeah, I think that's really important, and that's valuable for our brokers to know. So I'm going to take these next two slides myself. This, for me, the renewal process for us as a wholesaler and all of you listening as a retailer is just as equally as important as your new business. So it's a 50-50 process when you're looking at your new business versus renewals. Both are important. So we want to make sure there are many of our brokers that work with us that are farmers agents, and you're very dependent on maybe a farmer's automated system. And so when you write an outside book of business that doesn't fit into farmers, then you are looking at systems that you have to create, and you're not probably going to buy an agency management system. So it's really important to create, but there's easy ways to create systems without an agency management system. Excel is a great way to track your renewals. You want to track monthly. I would track monthly, if not weekly, by an Excel spreadsheet expiration report. So it's really important that you think in these terms, because otherwise you're not really on top of your renewals. And you do not want to be, even though we'll be reaching out to you, we want you to be just as efficient with your insured as we will be with you. Treat every renewal like a new business. So the most important thing is with commercial, it's not like personal lines where everything is heavy service and you're being bombarded all the time, all through the policy period. With commercial, they're pretty, they're usually not heavy service, and as long as you take really good care of them once a year, then you can easily retain your renewals. So again, really important to send out a written proposal, formal proposal that makes you look like a professional, and I do not recommend that you send what we send you. It just is not professional enough. It's professional for you, but it's not meant for the insured. So I encourage you to send professional proposals. And again, monitor your renewal retention. How are you doing? The worst case situation is if you're binding new business and within that first year you lose the business. That's what they call retention, and that's the worst. That means you didn't write good business to begin with. Lapses after did it make it to the 13th month, and then fall off the books. That would be anything after the 13th month. And so you're looking to keep your lapse. You want to be only losing no more than 10 to 15%, preferably 10. And it depends on the type of risk too. Some costs of business are going to be a higher lapse ratio than others, right? Everybody knows that. They've been through it. So be aware of that, and that might prompt you to promote or go after different other types of class of business that might have a better lapse ratio long term. Make sure you're cross-selling the other insurance coverages at renewal. It's who has the other insurance who's going to be trying to take it away from you, and that I remember years ago that used to come as a surprise to me, and I learned my lesson pretty quickly. So I encourage you, especially if you have the package, you should have the work comp, because that's who's going to be hunting you, whoever has the work comp. So always cross-sell other coverages at renewal. And then ask for referrals while you're working your renewals. Should be an easy one, but we forget. We get busy and we forget to ask for it because that's a really warm lead. That's a great time, especially if you're taking good care of them, right? And then I think I mentioned focus on 50-50 renewal retention and new business production for profitability. Okay. And then let's talk a little bit more about retaining your work comp renewals. And I got to move my screen over here a little bit here so I can shoot. Okay, retaining your commercial clients' business. So PIF count per insured is important. Over time, they have there's lots of statistics out there on one policy. You're only going to your average number of years that you're going to keep it is going to be far less than if you have two or more policies. So it's really important that you cross-sell. As I mentioned, you want to have more than one policy. The more PIF per insured, the easier it's going to be to retain your work comp and all of your other policies. They dovetail together. So and if you're going to build a business, that's a much more solid way of doing it than a lot of what I call one-trick ponies. Only one policy per insured. You want two or more. Know who controls the other insurance for your insured. Does anybody ever ask about that? Don't keep your head in the sand, and make sure that when you're working your renewal, you get those expiration dates and follow up, and propose that business to them when it comes close to that expiration date. And again, I'd be working those out early because guess what? Your competition is going to be blocking the market on you. So you would want to be working that. I would, no less than 60 days and preferably 90 days in order to obtain that business and make sure that you get into the carriers that you want to have quoted. And then again, I recommend formal renewal proposals, as I mentioned before. That's an important part of the process. Lexi, I think you're up next.
Thank you. So how to guarantee renewal success, especially for medium to large accounts. Some of you do have larger accounts, which brings more competition. So I will be reaching out to you with the same intent you'll be reaching out to the insured, which is to bind the renewal. So as mentioned above, it is very important to get your insured to understand we are looking at other markets to find the most competitive carrier. So when that renewal approaches, the goal is that we will present a couple of proposals to you. So please communicate with your insured, or there will be a risk of losing the client because someone is always hunting these larger accounts. It is important as a broker not just to present the rate, but also all the services the carrier has available. So there are carriers who have better services, and we can present those to you. Each carrier provides safety tools that you can find online that are totally efficient, and we definitely recommend investing time to look into these. We do work with the top carriers in the industry, and they are straight work comp writers, so they do an excellent job in claims management and loss control. As you know, there is no faster way to lose a large account than mismanaged claims, so you do want to be looking for a carrier that has in-house claims managers. That is the best method.
Can I interrupt you just for a second, Lexi?
Yeah,
there was a question that came in, and I apologize. PIF, and you're right. That's a trendy term. There's someone's asking what does that mean, and and I apologize. I should have spelled that out. That is a insurance agency term, and we use it on the wholesale side as well. It stands for policy in force. So that's an important thing to know, how many policies you have in force, and that and that helps you to manage your renewals by knowing that PIF count. Go ahead.
Okay, moving on to the next slide. I'll pass it to Caesar.
Thank you. This would be, as far as the endorsement requests go, there's several types of changes that will require an endorsement request. So some of these are going to be like the waiver of subrogation, a change in ownership, change in payroll, change in location, you're adding a location, you're taking a location away, things like that. Again, can't probably going to say this a couple more times before this is over, but I would encourage you to go back to the previous webinar that we did for the work comp. That will definitely explain some of this stuff, especially like the waiver of subrogation and a few other things that would be important. So do go back and listen to that one. But the biggest thing to remember is don't wait to make any changes to the policy. If you gain knowledge of the fact that there is a change that should be made to the policy, do it now, do it ahead of time, but don't wait for the renewal. There are some occasions where there's a small change in payroll that really won't affect the premium too much, and those can probably wait until the end of the policy period. But for the most part, I would encourage you just to if there are changes, to make them now, and that way they're not affected at the end of the policy period during the audit period. The other thing would be working it as far as when you're working the renewal. If there's any changes that need to be made at that point, have them done now. Don't wait to do them afterwards. You're just trying to cut the amount of work, how many times you're having to touch the account, and just make it as efficient as possible. Really, is what it is, and have accurate information, and that way you're not caught on an audit with changes that will drastically affect the premium, and then drastically could potentially affect the relationship that you have with the insured as well. So just create less work for yourself and make those changes ahead of time.
Okay. And moving forward to direct billing. So work comp policies are set up on direct bill. The insured will be making payments directly to the carrier, and they will be set up on a stipulated pay plan, which is a premium based on payroll that they agreed on. So the policy will be divided into a down payment with an installment plan following. This way it makes it easy to tell the client they're guaranteed the same payment each month, which then produces a stable budget for them. So moving on to the next slide. So I will be covering something that's very important to you, which is your commission. So all work comp policies are direct bill, as I mentioned, unlike agency bill where you deduct your commission up front. Direct bill is paid based on premium payments made to the carrier. So we will be paid by the carrier and cut a check to you directly monthly. So it's very important, I know it's in caps, but do not withhold your commission when sending payment to CID. The commission will trickle in based on what the insured paid the carrier. So please be patient with this process. Unfortunately, there is no way around it, and there's no carrier that does it any differently. And moving to our next slide. So when it comes to new business and renewals, a wholesale broker fee can be charged, as you see in the template. So if the proposal does appear with an invoice, we do ask to please collect the premium and the fee together from the insured, and then from there you would cut a check from your trust account and write a check to CID insurance programs. And we will have the instructions, as you can see, written down in payment terms, also on the renewal quote. So our accounting department, they will not accept a check directly from the insured with premium included. So please be aware to the instructions listed on the invoice as to where to send payment to and also for how much. And premium audits. So I will discuss premium audits. I know this can be more of the frustrating things. It's important for you and your insured to know, if you don't already, that all work comp policies are subject to a premium audit, no exceptions. So that is mandated by the state that they come back around, determine if the payrolls were accurate, so the accurate premium is charged for the exposure. And the carriers will do this at least annually. So these auditors are looking for any uninsured or unlicensed vendors that actually could be deemed as an employee if they are injured. So if they can't prove they have a license or own insurance to cover their exposure for a worker injury, then the carrier will most likely consider them as an employee. So they can either be an independent contractor with proof, or they can be deemed as an employee, and then from there, their payroll or whatever you paid that vendor would be included in the audit, and you would be paying premium on that. So I just wanted to bring that up so you can always keep that in mind. And I will be covering next about some issues that we run across with premium audits. Okay, so it is essential the insured completes an audit report that will be sent to them directly from the carrier to avoid non-compliance, because non-compliance can result in two issues. First issue, an estimated audit will be issued, charging additional premium. And then secondly, a cancellation notice will be issued on their current active policy if they're non-compliant on that previous expired policy term. So basically, make sure the insured complies with all documentation requests, and please be very proactive with the insured when we forward those audit compliance reminders. And last but not least, cancellation. So of course, none of us want the policy to cancel, so hopefully we can always work together to prevent cancellation from occurring, but the carrier will send out cancellations for the following reasons. First would be non-payment. Second would be non-reporting on an audit, which connects with that audit report I just explained. And then third would be material change in exposure. So they're pretty self-explanatory. The insured will receive a cancellation notice directly from the carrier, and we send the broker the same cancellation notice. So please be very proactive in making that payment or sending them that audit information before that date passes. We do highly recommend also to create a cancellation process and a follow-up system so the cancellations are managed properly by someone, and we can always avoid cancellations in the future. And then last thing I want to mention, if the insured does request a midterm cancellation with a signed LPR form, please keep in mind that a short rate penalty fee will be applied. And that fee is determined on how many days their policy was active. The carrier does include a short rate penalty table towards the end of their policy where you can calculate that fee. And then if you need assistance or help on it, please don't hesitate to let me know and I can help you out with that.
And Lexi, is that I believe the short rate is applied to the unearned portion? Am I correct in that? Which can be hefty, so it's always a good idea to not encourage it.
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Okay, so this was short, sweet, to the point. We wanted to stay on time today. If you have any questions that you would like to ask, please type them in now. Remember that we have tools on our website. The template, proposal template can be used for both renewals and new business. There's an invoice attached, so you have, if you need to invoice the insured, you can use that invoice, but make sure that in those cases that you're having the check made out to either the carrier or being billed, if you need to send an invoice, have them make that check out to you. Also, our webinars, this webinar will be recorded and put on our website under Resources Webinar tab, and you could go watch it or have any of your employees watch it. And like Cesar said, super important, the Work Comp Part 1 is a really good one on the basics as well. So please make sure that and there's lots of other webinars recorded and upcoming ones as well on our website. You'll receive a brief survey that we'd love for you to give us our feedback, let us know how we're doing, tell us what other things that you'd like to see us do, or other classes of business that you'd like to see a webinar on. So Lexi and Cesar are ready to help you and serve you for new business and renewals, so please don't hesitate to reach out to them. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.